Hi and welcome in this video. Today we're going to talk about the Pranic Journey. For those of you who don't know what the Pranic Journey is, it's actually the journey where you naturally go into refining in quality and quantity your food intake, your diet. We're going to explain this more into details straight in this video. I am MaryÂm. For those of you who don't know me, I have been working in the field of pranic living since 2011, co-creating pranic projects, events, and over 100 interviews together with Freedom Generation that are available actually right there on that TV channel, Freedom Generation TV. And this video today is all about the Pranic Journey. But before we go any further, let us hang out the laundry because I think the washing machine is ready. So the reason why I'm making this video is actually not to encourage anyone to do anything. It's not to criticize anything. It's not to sell anything or encourage people to go and follow any specific path in life. And the reason I really share this is because it makes me happy to share my experience about the Pranic Journey. And if that experience can actually benefit you in any way, that's even greater. This being said, in this video I will share 4 different parts. The first part being my own Pranic journey. The second part being doing a process versus not doing a process and why I believe doing a process is not the best idea. And I don't actually encourage people doing a process. And I will say why. Then the next point will be the body changes on a Pranic Path, which is something that very few people talk about, and it's actually, I believe, very, very important. And then the last part, maybe I will talk about it actually before, is about DNA and genetics and how DNA and genetics play such an important role in our lifestyle and of course on a Pranic journey even more. Okay, so let's get started with the first part. The first part is about a Pranic journey, especially my Pranic journey. It's actually very important to ask ourselves, what is a Pranic journey to me? What is the definition of being a Pranic being? And why do I want to become one? Some people encountered in their life Breatharian people, who basically, Breatharian people are people who have the capacity to live without food or eat a little bit or not at all, according to people's definition. From my own perspective and my own vision, I like to have a very clear definition of what a Breatharian is to me. And I believe a Breatharian to me is someone who doesn't need to eat or drink at all, and thus doesn't do so except in very, very, very exceptional occasions, which I believe we don't find ourselves in once we are established on that path. And I'm going to share why later on in that video. Sorry if my English is kind of awkward. I'm actually French, so English is not my mother tongue. So if there's some words that you don't really understand, hopefully there will be the automatic translation underneath, like under the video, so that you can see and read the English better if this is what you need. So yes, some people get to encounter other Breatharians in their life, on their path, and as a consequence to this, meeting someone who doesn't eat at all or eat just a little bit of food, they decide to go on the journey and become Breatharians themselves. We can call these people Breatharians, or we can call them Pranic people, or we can call them, I guess that's it. I think there's other names, but yeah. non-eaters or whatever you choose. Anyway, I in this video will probably use the terms breatharian or pranic people. When our decision is based on the person that we met or the people that we met or the information that we got in the first place about this lifestyle, we could call it a lifestyle. It's very, very key, especially in this case, to ask ourselves, I believe, why we want to go on that path. Because this questioning ourselves and questioning our decision is a very, very key that will actually kind of design the entire journey that will follow. For example, if you ask yourself the question, why do I want to follow this path? And the answer is because I want to be like him or her, or the answer is because I want to gain those powers, or because I want to heal that from my body, or because I want to become like this or like that, then you probably will question that again all along the journey, because if it doesn't come from a place of becoming a better version of yourself through authenticity and through discovering yourself more, a bit like a meditation, then I would say it's probably not the best reason to go on that path. This path is way too challenging, way too long, way too deep and intense, way too important, way too compromising, way too difficult, way too dangerous actually for one person, for one human being to decide on taking it based on outside circumstances, outside fantasies and outside dreams that are not coming from a place of true feeling inside of us, inside of our guts, inside of our heart. And I think if it really is coming from a place of, you know, your own self and your own inner voice, then naturally you would have been on that path way before you meet a person who is so called to be, also said to be on that path, also called a breatharian. If you really look at your life and your past experiences, you probably were already on that path before you actually met someone who was just then a confirmation that you were already following that path, but less consciously. Less consciously. This is the actual word that is taking me to sharing about my own journey on this pranic path, because I started not knowing anything about breatharianism, not knowing anything about pranic living, simply following my own heart and my own intuition, and it started very early in my childhood. When I say a pranic path, I actually mean, that's very important to say, beginning a pranic path means that you actually decide to change your diet, to refine your diet in quality and quantity, and this may go on and on and on until you go to naturally eating less and less food, not because you starve yourself, but because you feel so nourished in your life by any other thing that you do, maybe your work, anything really. You feel so nourished by anything that you do in life that you no longer need food, or you're just having food for other reasons than feeding yourself. And so for me, I naturally decided to go vegetarian first and foremost. Coming out of a omnivore diet, I decided to become a vegetarian in 2000, and it went overnight. I was a child at that time. I didn't have no idea about the vitamins and the proteins and the minerals and any nutrition fact that you get from a diet. I think no children really care about that anyway. I just went vegetarian naturally because that was a call, I guess. Also, the reason I think that impacted me very much and impacted my choice at that time very much is that my mom started meditation and started a very strong and powerful meditation, which is called the Inner Light and Sound meditation, which I will speak about later again in this video. And when she started this meditation, I naturally benefited from it, and she became vegetarian herself, and I followed naturally, not because she did that, but because I felt that I no longer wanted to eat animals. And also because I had such a bond with animals. We had so many animals in our house, and it was just magical. And all those cats and birds and ducks and any kind of animals we had, I had such a bond and a beautiful relationship with them that was just natural for me not to eat my friends, in other words. So this was the first major transition. I became a vegetarian overnight in 2000. At that time, it was a transition that had no purpose to evolve, shall I say, or change. I had no intention to evolve in this transition afterwards. The only thing I knew is that I was living in the present as a vegetarian, and that was my commitment for life. The big challenges at that time was that because I was so young and at school nobody was a vegetarian. This wasn't even something that people would go for or was speaking about yet. So at school I would always feel rejected because my peers and the grown-ups were always constantly questioning me and wondering why I was a vegetarian when really nobody was and there was no reason to be one. 3 years after that, in 2003, I started my first raw vegan transition. Again, it wasn't based on evolving or anything in that diet. It wasn't even based on health or ethics or none of that. I just felt a desire for a change. And for a whole year, I went into eating only raw fruits and vegetables most of the time, which is 80% of my diet. Yeah, about 80% of my diet was based on raw food and raw fruits. That was all I was having. And even though at that time it was kind of hard on my body physically because I was really pushing myself, and again I made no transition overnight. I decided to go raw, I wasn't even calling it raw vegan. I was just basically knowing I wanted fruits and vegetables in their raw form, and that's what I was having. I was just starting high school at that time, and I wasn't feeling rejected this time by anyone. It was just I was very strong-minded, and I knew this was gonna be what I wanted. This was gonna be followed through. And for a whole year, this is what I went through. I experienced so many beautiful changes, even though I was so harsh on myself at that time. And I had the potential to love my body and love the way I was doing things more, but that's what it was at that time. And so I experienced tremendous amount of energy, clarity, very good focus. I was waking up in the morning super bright, 5 a.m., super energetic, and I always had this tremendous amount of energy and vitality and beauty. I had the perfect body shape that I had always dreamed of. No fat, nothing. I mean, that was my ideal at that time. So I felt blessed being able to achieve such a goal as having a body shape that was exactly matching my dream at that time. After going through this live and raw period for a year, I decided to fast for the first time of my life, several days. Again, I was still a teenager and never done fasting, never heard about that at all, never educated myself on what to do, what not to do. I was literally following my intuition the whole way through in that period between 2000 and 2011. So I fasted several days like that, having only water, and I was feeling again very energetic and everything was fine. Never thought about being sick or dying or none of that. I was so confident that I was just doing the right thing that I never questioned any impact on that. And then came the year 2012. So just before that, I went to Australia. So I basically grew up in France. I lived abroad several times without my parents. And the first experience was in the UK when I was 19, and the second experience was in Australia when I was 21. So when I was in Australia, I went on a quest which led me to wanting to learn about meditation. And the meditation practice I picked up very funnily enough, was actually the meditation practice that my mom was on. But I didn't know about it until I actually got initiated into that practice, into the inner light and sound meditation practice. And I want to talk about this because this is a practice that really, really empowered my life so much. I think through this practice, anything else came to me like blessings raining onto my life. And I'm not saying it was only positive in the form and the appearance, but I strongly believe today that the first and most important element of your foundation on this path, and I'll talk about that later again, is meditation. And not just like guided meditation, not a meditation that requires all the tools and equipments and people to be there for you. It has to be a meditation where you alone can grow from, evolve from, and work with through your inner forces. And the inner forces that we all have is two forces, the light and the sound. We all are made of those forces which are light and sound. Everything is made of light and sound. And when we are able to see and feel our own inner light and our own inner sound, we can actually see it anywhere as a reflection of ourselves. And this is so key because when you can see your inner light and hear your inner sound, anywhere you go on the planet, you can actually see the same thing anywhere. You can actually understand and you can actually know when you are on your path, because the colors of the light that you see and the sound that you hear from one side or from the other side are the indicators of whether you are aligned or not so aligned to your path. And this is very, very clear. There's nothing. See, because when you don't do this type of meditation, you don't know where you are. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how to measure your evolution, how to measure your state of energy. And with the light and the sound, you are able to do that constantly. You are able to have the indicators through the light, the colors of the light, and the sound, the level of the sound, if it's low or high, and if it's resonate on one side rather than the other side, you are able to know exactly where you are at and what you should do and what you should not do. And this is very key on a path, because you no longer feel lost or no longer feel like you don't know. You actually know everything all the time about what you should be doing. If this is enough, if this is clear enough, I highly suggest for people who don't know which meditation to choose, or who don't feel like their meditation is strong enough as a foundation, to go and learn about inner light and sound meditation. I learned this technique through Supreme Master Ching Hai. She has a big association. She's doing such an enormous amount of work in this planet, and I believe she is a human being who is the most advanced in this area, in meditation. And the reason I say that is because I've encountered so many people into meditation. When I went to India, I met so many other masters as well, but there was no one as close to meditation as her. No one as powerful enough as her. No one as self-realized as her, I could say. I know it sounds really weird to say that, maybe for you to hear that, but this is real. And if you listen to her speech, and if you read her books, and if you watch her TV channel, which is called Supreme Master TV, she actually has broadcasted. She was the first to broadcast interviews about pranic people and this lifestyle, pranic lifestyle. And if you really pay attention to all the teachings that she has, and the way she speaks, and the way she explains things, you can actually feel what I'm talking about. So for me, that is the best practice that exists on this planet, taught by a living being. Does that make sense? So when I started to learn about this meditation practice, realize that I grew up all my life and my childhood through having a mom who was practicing this, I understood why I went through this path less consciously, through this pranic path less consciously, because that was all meant to be. It was already there, it was in my life, I just didn't know about it. And so from then on, from this year 2012, I continued this path, this pranic path, consciously, knowing that this existed. There was this possibility to just evolve as a human being, being able to be nourished by everything we do in life and without having the need to eat food for surviving, out of survival. The year 2012 was super strong and intense, as it was for everybody in this planet, because I believe this year 2012 was a very important year. And so for me it meant many changes. In 2012 let me just check my notes. So in 2012 I learned about light and sound meditation. I went vegan officially and committed myself to be a vegan for my entire life. I committed myself to meditate 10% of my day every single day of my life, which is about at least 2.5 hours a day. I committed to only say the truth and never lie. I committed to a bunch of other things as well. And I started a full-time permanent job in Paris City. I bought my first place through a mortgage. So I became an owner of my place, of a living place, if I can call it this way, in Paris City. I learned about solar technology through Sun Yogi Umashankar, who taught me about Sun Yoga, which was a wonderful experience as well. I enrolled for a master degree in business management. And the number 9, I did a Pranic Process. I won't say which Pranic Process, I won't say how long, because as I told you already in this presentation, I don't recommend doing a Pranic Process. I don't think it's a good idea, and I don't think it's the best way to go on this path. I didn't know at that time, so I just did that because one of my friends suggested we could do it together, so I said, why not? And so I did that in year 2012. So all these things that I've just listed to you happened in that same year, 2012. For me, doing a Pranic Process was great, but I had expectations. I did this wanting to become a breatharian. In other words, wanting to become a person who doesn't eat. I wasn't thinking about the drinking aspect at that time, but my expectations were really high. I expected to come out of this process being a breatharian. This is something that we should never expect. Actually, having goals in this path isn't a good idea, because when you have goals and you plan yourself to stop eating this, stop eating that, becoming or reaching such a level at that stage, that's exactly where we are going to be disappointed. Life will be throwing our way experiences so that we just realize how much we should remain humble and patient and not making any plans on the food aspect. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a vision, but I believe we should have a vision and live in the present moment every single day, being grateful for what is there and working on bettering ourselves, working on being a better human being. That is the goal there. That is the main focus, being a better human being. Growing our human qualities, serving humanity and the world better, making this place a better paradise, or a place that is more enjoyable to live for everyone, every living beings. That, I believe, should be our main focus, rather than the food aspect. So the Pranic Process that I did went really well during the process. The after process wasn't so great. And the reason is I found myself not able to sustain a state where my body was already accustomed and used to. on a day-to-day basis. Basically, I was working full-time, remember. I had commitments in financially and also in terms of studies. I was committed to do a master's degree. In terms of working schedule, I committed myself to work full-time, and I had this mortgage to pay, which was a major responsibility for me at that time. So working full-time and trying to sustain a diet where I really didn't need any more food, and I was happy drinking juices at that time, was very challenging. Because when I was working, I felt like I needed to eat because I was so bored in my work and unhappy. Not that the work itself wasn't good, but having to think about refining my diet while working full-time every day in a place where I had to be seated because I was an assistant at that time, in an office with no external light, no access to the outside. I basically was going to work in the morning, it was dark, and I was coming back from work, it was dark, so I never got to really see the daylight and to enjoy the outside and the nature. I was basically going from one office to another box, which was my tiny little flat. I call it a flat, but really it was so tiny that it wasn't even healthy for a human being to live in such a tiny place. Anyway, that's not part of the subject here, but just to say that for me, working full-time and sustaining a breatharian lifestyle, or at least a liquidarian lifestyle, which is what I was at the time, was way too challenging. And so I was trying and I noticed that I needed to eat because I wasn't feeling mentally happy. And this is very key because a pranic process is about two things, or rather, pranic living is about the physical state and the mental state, to my experience, I believe. You can have the physical state tuned to a pranic state, but the mental not tuned. And if the mental state isn't tuned, then there will be imbalance. So in other words, you have to be physically and mentally pranic before you can actually live a pranic state fully, permanently. And so if one is ready but not the other, you still have to work on the other and care for all the areas of your life where challenges arise that make you feel like you're not yet set to be a pranic being. That makes sense. I'm not sure if this is really making sense, but anyway. So in other words, my physical body was ready for prana, for a breatharian state, but my mental body, the mental side of me wasn't ready. The emotional state is actually part of your mental state because your emotions are the consequence of how you feel mentally. So emotionally / mentally, I wasn't ready, and I wasn't at a stage where I could sustain myself and feel nourished from the life I was living. So I found myself needing to eat so that my mind was happy, okay? But when I was doing that, my body wasn't happy. In other words, I was literally getting sick. What happened after that pranic process is that I was getting more sick and sick and sick, to a point that I had to quit my job. I just no longer could work full-time in that job. I remember that time I was actually calling a taxi driver to drive me back home because I was so sick at work. It was so horrible. I told myself never again. It was a nightmare. I was literally just vomiting all along in the taxi. I came back home, I thought I was gonna die. I'm not joking. So this is why I don't recommend a process, because I believe it's so radical for your body and your mind that even if it's gentle during the process or people tell you it's actually a gentle process, whatever they say, your body going through that, it's too radical for it. As long as you don't follow the stages, the natural stages of food refinement in quality and quantity, it's going to be radical for your body, whether you admit it or not. that's how it is. And the reason are, number one, your DNA isn't set to a pranic lifestyle because your DNA hasn't gone through refinement, through all the stages of food refinement. Example, when you go from omnivore to vegetarian, the genetics in your body changes over the years. When you go from vegetarian to vegan, the genetics in your body change over the years. After several years of vegetarian, after several years of vegan, your body, your genetics aren't the same anymore. The information of your cells aren't the same anymore. This is why if you go on a, I don't know if you've been a vegan for so many years and you go back to eating meat, that can actually kill you. It's actually dangerous. I'm talking about a purely physical aspect. Of course, I'm not talking about the energetic aspect or so-called the blessings that you can receive in life that allow you to be at a stage where energetically, even if you get poisoned through the food, you can actually survive. I'm not talking about that because I believe this isn't actually a pranic state directly. It comes from the wisdom that you receive through the meditation practice that you go through and you have as a foundation that leads you to receiving the blessing in life that allow you to survive any kind of poisoning. All right, that's another subject, but it's a bit linked. But anyway, I'm talking purely physical here. If your body is set in its genetics to vegan or to live and raw food, and you're trying to go backward, you will experience serious disease and sickness, purely physically and mentally as well. So this is why a pranic process, I believe, isn't a good idea, simply because it's too radical for your body in terms of diet change, meaning that it actually creates a trauma in your body. And most people coming out of a pranic process go into binge eating, go into eating disorders, and don't understand and feel guilty when really it's not their fault. I mean, it's a natural process that occurs because of too radical a change in a lifestyle. And number two, as I said, the DNA, you have to set your DNA step by step so that you can be ready genetically to pranic living. And for you to be able to do that, two elements are key and two elements are important. Number one is the meditation. The meditation practice, and I'm talking about the light and sound meditation practice here because I don't know about the other ones. I just know about this one. I mean, I know about the other ones that I've been through, which are way less powerful than this one in terms of DNA update. You can actually change your DNA through the practice of inner light and sound meditation. If you practice it daily, at least 10% of your day. So this is a way, and the other way that goes together with the meditation is the mindset. You have to reprogram your mindset and you have to learn cognitive thinking. And this is very uneasy to do alone. Actually, I myself had a mentor who taught me day and night 24/7 for 3 years how to see the blind spots in myself that I couldn't see, how to see the patterns in myself and the programming that I had that I wasn't able to see. And it's all the same for us. We get on this planet, we get born with a certain programming, with certain patterns, with certain mindset, with certain informations in ourselves that lead us to certain actions. And if we're not able to see those cycles and those programming and those patterns that we have, we can't change them. And for us to be able to see them, we need someone to show us until we are able to do it by ourselves. And this can take many years. This is what people call awakening, okay? But doing that alone is really, really uneasy. It's like trying to, I don't know, how could I say that? It's like trying to be an athlete without a coach. Or it's like trying to learn to drive without someone to teach you. Or it's like trying to learn a new language with anyone to teach you. So you're like, it's possible, but it's way less easy than if you had someone. So I encourage you, if you want to go on that path and if you want to change, reprogram your DNA and update your genetics so that you can be aligned with a pranic lifestyle, I strongly encourage you to first meditate, ideally the inner light and sound meditation, and I will link down below underneath this video where you can get the information for that. It's actually free, or maybe they now charge €1, I think. They're like, yeah, I think they charge €1 or $1 for people to commit into this, which I understand, but these are things that are free, okay? And if you want to learn about cognitive thinking and about how to reprogram your mindset and be able, because here is the key, you need to be able to see past this addicted mindset that we have, past the addicted mind that we all have, until we are able to see it and change it. And it's very uneasy, because what we all think is right isn't. What we think is right, if we believe that our mind and what we think is actually good for us, is actually the right way, but it isn't, because the way we think is based on a programming, and is based on our mind working on saving us from going too far or too much out of our comfort zone. That's how it works. So the mind is actually programmed to show you the negative things of life, the negative side of things, and if you don't learn to see it constantly, you get trapped and you can't grow beyond that. It's not very easy to explain. Oh my God, where did I put myself into making this video? But if you really pray hard and meditate, you will find either someone who will be able to mentor you, like I had for myself for 3 years, or find there will be a solution if you really, really, really wish to grow yourself, and it comes from a place of true love and true good intention, I'd say. You'll find someone who will be there for you to show you. I believe we all need someone to show us, to awaken us in that specific stage, because that's very uneasy to see the blind spots for ourselves. Oh, socializing is a good way, because when you socialize, people are able to see, to be like a feedback for you, and to tell you, oh look, you're doing this way, that's a bit strange, and that's exactly what you need. You need feedbacks from people who can tell you the patterns that you have, and you can change. And once you're able to change those patterns, your DNA will be changing and set to another level. Your mind will be changing, and basically your life will be changing. So for me, if there was the two most beautiful blessings I got in my life, was to get to be initiated in a light and sound meditation, and to have a mentor with me 24/7 for 3 years, who really, really got me to a level where today I am able to see the patterns, or see when I do something that is not so aligned with the best version of myself. That is such a blessing. Such a blessing. So yes, I believe a pranic process isn't the best way, as I said, because it's too radical, because your DNA needs to be changed anyway before you become a pranic, or before you can sustain a pranic lifestyle. The reason number 3 I believe a pranic process isn't useful is because on a pranic path, there's something you must remember, a very important rule. You can't go back. You can't go back to who you were before. You can't go back to the diet you had before. You can't go back without experiencing hard consequences, or without experiencing disharmony, without experiencing consequences that can be less positive for your life. And I'm very, very clear on that. And people won't tell you, people will actually tell you, most of the Breatharian gurus out there that tell you, you can choose to eat whatever you want, you can be free to do whatever you want, but this is so far from the truth. Once you are on that path, you're working at a level of energy where you have to go forward all the time, but you can't go back. If you go back, you'll be sick, or you may be depressed, you may go through burnouts, and that's actually my entire experience for the past 6 years that I'm telling you right now. And I mean, you can go through financial trouble, you can go through, when you start going on that path, it's a path where you can't go backward without experiencing damaging consequences if you do. I want to be very honest and clear with you. If you start not saying the truth, if you start not being authentic, if you start eating things that your body doesn't want to eat, if you start doing things that are not at that level of energy where you are after a process, you will experience disharmony. You will experience sickness. You will experience unhappiness, depression, all kind of things that you don't want to experience. And I know, because that's not only my experience, but the experience of dozens and probably hundreds of people. I don't know about the hundreds, but I can say about the dozens of people out there who went through a pranic process. Remember the rule, you can't go backward. You can only go forward. And the last reason why I think a pranic process isn't a good idea is because your body goes through changes. And I'm going to speak about that in the next chapter, or the next part of this video. Your body goes through changes, structural changes, okay? And once your body has changed its structure, you can't go back again, and you can't do things that you used to do. If you eat, like example, if you eat meat after 20 years of vegetarianism, your body doesn't produce anymore those chemicals to digest meat, if supposedly meat is digestible. This doesn't happen anymore in your body. So your body is working in a way that is no longer aligned to a certain lifestyle that you previously had, maybe. Your body isn't aligned no more to a previous lifestyle that you had. And when you do a pranic process, because of the energy that is there, because of this very strong and powerful energy of the other people being there, of the people teaching you there, is very strong and powerful and high. And because of that, the changes happen very fast. But if you can't sustain the changes, okay, that have happened in your body, that you will be going again backwards, and you will be trying to eat things that you were eating maybe before, thinking it's okay, but in your body, because the chemicals aren't there no more, because the structure has changed, that's going to be a less positive experience. And this is leading me to the last part of this video, the part number 4, which is about body changes. Once you go on this Breatharian path, your body does change physically, chemically, energetically. Basically, I'm going to give you one example. Physically, your stomach and your organs shrink. When you go on a path where you refine your food intake in quality and quantity over time, your stomach doesn't stay as it is today, it shrinks. And you need to understand that to be able to actually understand that you can't eat the same amount of food you were eating before. You can't eat the same quality of food you were eating before. You just can't eat the same food you were eating before, because your body, the organs of your body are just not the same. Okay? So some people may say, yes, you can eat a lot of food and blah, 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 but okay, fine. But if you try and do that, I'm telling you, you can actually die. You can literally die if you do that. So when people say going through a pranic path is dangerous, being a breatharian is dangerous because you can kill yourself, this is real. And you need to understand that. And you can actually see it in countries where people are so-called starving or in starvation. And if you give them too much food, after some times where they haven't had enough food or much food, for a long period of time, they can literally die. That's why you have to be so careful, especially after a process, when you want to eat again, because your body will start changing. And if you spend a long period of time eating very small amount of food or not at all, there's no reason why you should go back and eating, because your organs will have shrunk. Your body will have changed. to a place where really it becomes dangerous and damaging to eat food again. I'm talking purely physically there. Of course, I could say there are exceptions, but those exceptions shouldn't be your focus. Those exceptions are there because of other elements linked with meditation, wisdom, and blessings. So-called the Babaji state and all these terms that I won't be explaining today because it's just too dense and too much information. Okay, so that number one, your body changes physically and your organs basically shrink. So you can't eat here and there when you want with the freedom you think you may have. Really, you don't have. The freedom you have is actually to commit to being disciplined on this path. Number two, and chemically, the chemicals of your body changes, and I want to be more precise there. The production of chemicals in your body change. Your body won't be producing certain chemicals that it used to be producing. For example, when we are on a meat diet, meaning that we eat meat, the body produces chemicals in order to digest that meat. When we stay a long period of time or enough time without eating meat, the body no longer produces those chemicals that are helpful to digest the meat and actually a necessity. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to go into the name of the chemicals or those things. I'm talking purely about my experience and the experience of other people I came in contact with. But if you want more details, maybe seek the knowledge or get the education through educating yourself through scientific explanation that I don't have today to share with you, or I don't specifically want to share with you. I'm just sharing it my way. Basically, what I want to say is when you change diet for a long period, for enough time, your body changes the chemical production that it was into, just like a hormone cycle. Your body chemically changes itself. So if you think you can eat anything or you have the freedom to go back to eating this and that after a process or after a breatharian transition, that is to me very far from the truth. You actually can't go back once again. You can't go back to eating what you used to eat, and you can only stick to refining more and more your diet in quality and quantity. And this is why you should take your time at every stage. I'll come back to the stage in a minute. You should take all the time you need and your body wants to, because you have to know you can't go back. And then the last point about the body changes is the energetic change and energetic shift that your body does. When you spend some time without eating certain foods and you want to eat those food again, here is what may happen, especially after a pranic process. You eat the food and you feel like being under drug, or you feel like being having a hangover, or you feel like if you were an alcoholic. This is very much of my experience. I really know what I'm talking about here. Every time I do eat cooked food today, my heart, and this is what can happen, my heart starts beating very fast, like tachycardia. I think that would be the word in English, tachycardia. When basically your heartbeat goes faster than its normal rhythm, which is actually dangerous. So this may start to happen for you too, because energetically your body is tuned at a level where when you eat food that doesn't align to that level, basically your energetic level drops. And when it drops, you feel like a zombie. Okay, you need to sleep, your heartbeat goes faster, you start sweating a lot. For me, I know it basically takes, for me at the moment I'm speaking, at the level I am in my life on my pranic journey right now, it takes for me about 15 hours to evacuate. I mean, not just in the toilet, but to evacuate when I eat cooked food, simply because and the night I spend after having eaten the cooked food is just terrible. I sweat so much that I know that the blankets and the duvet will be really, really wet. Again, my heart goes very fast. My throat gets super dry. I need to drink loads and tons of water. My brain can't think normally. You know, I need to sleep, and I need to sleep hours. And this is my experience. Again, if you have another experience, great for you, but remember that energetically your body changes, and as long as you put things that make your body energy drop, you will feel like a zombie. And it can be dangerous because that's when other lower energies can catch you and get into your life. Whether it is like lower sexual energies, lower energies in your relationships, lower energies in your work, lower energies in your environment. That's where you have to be really, really careful, because you can attract anything that is lower to your normal state simply because you have allowed yourself to be at a lower stage, even if it's temporarily. So yes, at that level, anything you put into your body may be like a drug. And I want to be very clear on that. We have to consider ourselves, I will talk and include myself in this sentence, we have to consider ourselves like drug addicts when we are on a pranic path. And I remember Genesis on Fire used to say it this way. See, someone who is addicted to cocaine and wants to stop having cocaine, okay, he will probably have to go through a rehab center to get the help needed to go through this transition that will be very intense, very hard to go through, and will take its time until this cocaine addict may become free from the use of cocaine. And once this cocaine addict is free from the use of cocaine, he can live his life without having cocaine. And if he surround himself with people eating cocaine, and if he accepts to have a little bit of cocaine here and there, guess what? He will just go back into it. And you know what? When chances are people going back on drugs when they stop, chances are very high for them to literally die when going back to that drugs, because they no longer know how much quantity to have because their body is basically free from that. But you have to consider yourself just this cocaine addict when you're trying to free yourself from food, because food will be just like cocaine for you on that path. I'm not saying food is bad, and I'm not saying you should hate food, and not at all. Actually, I think a cocaine addict loves the cocaine even when he's stopped having it. It's the same for us. We love food. I love food. I love eating pizzas and burgers, and vegan ones I don't really like. I never really like the taste of meat, but I love cooked food big times. But I love my health more. I love my happiness more. I love my being in a level of energy where I can really embody the best version I know I can be. I love when I am active and in vitality, in health and vibrant. I love that feeling way more than the feeling I have when I eat nice food. If we consider ourselves being on a path where we are freeing ourselves from the use of drugs, and we are very honest with ourselves that we need the help, because this is such a huge transition, and we are surrounded by people who basically take drugs every single day around us, and we have to be there, and we have to look at the shops where they sell the drugs everywhere. We can actually understand that it's not just a simple path. It's actually way more challenging than anything we've been thinking previously, and anything that people may tell you, or how simple it may be, because it's not simple. And even when you reach that state where you actually live and understand and experience that you don't need the food anymore, because you feel so nourished by everything that surrounds you, you feel so vibrant and so full of energy, even there you have to be so careful, because even a drop of cooked food can drive you back to your previous stages. And that's where it can be dangerous. That's where you can get sick. I know that from my experience. That's where you can be unsettled and depressed. Oh, I didn't talk about the depression part, but maybe I'll make another video about that, about depression and burnouts, because that's also part of my experience after that pranic process. I'm not saying again, this is the fault of the process, or this is because of the process I did. It's only because it's like a box that you open where everything you have to heal and change and update comes out of the surface. And when you have all that at the same time, it's just, it can be overwhelming. So this to say, instead of doing a pranic process, for those of you who want to be on a pranic path and start or continue their pranic journey, I would suggest to simply follow the stages. Follow the stages and have a strong foundation. So what are the stages? The stages are the natural stages of food refinement in quality and quantity. Basically, from omnivore, you go vegetarian. Once you are set and tuned and aligned with vegetarian, like vegetarianism is your life, you go and move on to vegan. Once you are set and aligned and in love with this lifestyle, just like this lifestyle is there for your life, you move on to raw vegan. And once you're a raw vegan for long enough, you feel happy in that stage, happy in that diet, and you're ready to move on to the next stage, you go fruitarian. And once you're happy again, and once you live that lifestyle like it's your entire life, you go liquidarian. And maybe at some point you'll go breatharian, if this is what your body and you want, and this is meant to be for you. But you follow the stages, and in every stage you have a transition period. You probably don't go overnight from vegetarian to vegan. You can, but it's kind of exceptional. The transition may take 6 months, a year, 2 years, who knows? And every stage may take 10 years, or maybe 5, or maybe 20. Who knows? But you don't become an athlete overnight. You don't become an athlete after a few weeks. You don't become an athlete after even a few months. It takes years of dedication and daily practice. You don't become a pianist overnight. You don't become a pianist over weeks or even over months. It takes years of dedication and practice. It's the same for a pranic lifestyle. It takes years of dedication and practice. And instead of wanting to be at that level where you don't do this and do that, or where you have such powers, maybe again, I'm coming back to what I said at the beginning of this video. Maybe remember the reason you take on that path. What is the reason? And make it very clear. Make it a vision. Make it a goal, an objective, a purpose in your life that allows you to embody the best version of yourself, allows you to be a better human being, allows you to better serve humanity and every living being. Because if this isn't the core of the reason why you are taking on that journey, you will reap the consequences of that reason, of intentions that are not so pure, in other words. So that's very important, the reason why we do things, right? And so along with the stages, along with refining your food intake in quality and quantity, going through all the stages of refinement until you maybe one day become a breatharian after God knows how many years of blessed experiences in your life, rather than radical experiences and pushing yourself and going through whichever challenges because it's harmful to your body to go too fast. Again, follow the natural homeostasis of your body. Along with those stages of refinement, you work on growing your foundation. And this is so key. And people miss out this point completely on this pranic journey. Most people I've met. Your foundation aren't tools. They are tools. Tools are like a bell on your bike, okay? When you ride a bike, having a bell is great. It's great to let people know that you're riding a bike. It's great to protect you in case of danger around. It's great to let people know that you're around and riding your bike. But a bell on your bike won't make you able to actually ride your bike better. It won't actually allow you to ride a bike. It's just a tool, okay? You have to actually see the same thing on a Breatharian path. Some things are tools and some other things are your foundation. Your foundation is 3 things, I believe from my experience. Number 1, meditation. Again, I won't repeat that enough. Meditation is the key, and the strongest part of your foundation is meditation. If there was only one thing, that would be the meditation. But 3 things are important though. Because meditation, I believe, wasn't enough for me to go on that path and really sustain myself long term. So meditation, and I would suggest light and sound meditation as a foundation. If you do guided meditation, this is great, but this is tools. Tools is not foundation. Tools is nice. Tools make you feel better temporarily, but tools aren't elements that are sustaining yourself permanently in that path, if you get me, if you get what I mean. So guided meditation is great, but it's a tool, it's not a foundation. If you really want a foundation, find a way to meditate by yourself. Get the teaching, get the initiation, get the tools that you need until you are at that level where you can do it by yourself. Element number 2 of your foundation, the mindset. Find a mentor, find someone who can show you your blind spot, find someone who can show you how to transform your past experiences, transform your programming, and basically change your DNA. That's very, very key. Once you are able to do that by yourself, then you can just do it by yourself. And this is great. Again, all this can be free or very, very low priced. You don't need to pay amount of price to do that. And number 3, and this is very key, super, super key, and most people just omit that in their Pranic Path. Workout. Workout every single day, not just like yoga or qigong or tai chi. These are great, but they're not enough. You need to work out in a way that pumps, make your heart pumps. You need to work out in a way that you raise your cardio level, that you feel vibrant in yourself, that the blood gets sent all over your body, in your neurons, in your brain, everywhere, so that you really feel energetic on a daily basis. And this workout has to be daily and has to be hours of workout. Not just 15, 30 an hour. It has to be hours of workout every day when you work your ass off to get the workout done and to really go beyond your limits. That's how you get the lion out of you, and you need this lion to remain healthy on that path. Otherwise, the zombie will take over. It's one or the other, the zombie mode or the lion mode. And the zombie mode can be very well hidden. And that's actually like when people talk about this path like a love and light and beautiful, easy path where you just live out of love, you hug everyone, you like people say that, and some of them just smoke weed. I'm not talking about that, but this is a reality. This is not what you want. You want to be a lion on that path as well as someone very aligned to your peace state and basically very aware and peaceful. But you need to have this workout every single day. Those 3 elements are really key. For me, they're the foundation of a healthy Pranic Path. And if you include those 3 elements in your life every single day, meditation, ideally light and sound meditation, 10% of your day minimum, plus workout at least 10% of your day minimum, plus a mindset that's actually conscious living all the time, every moment of your day, you're guaranteed to succeed on that path, being happy and healthy. So that's it. There's no other secret, there's no other techniques. Everything else is a tool for me. Breathing techniques are great, but they are tools. Tools aren't foundation. We don't become breatharians out of breathing techniques. They're great to feel good at a moment, they're great to feel good temporarily, they're great tools when we need them, but they're not foundation. Again, guided meditation is great tool, not foundation. Solar technology, sun yoga, solar practices, I love them myself, but they are tools, not foundation. You don't need the solar practices to be on a Pranic Path happy and healthy. You don't. Amaroli or Shivambu, great tools, not foundation. Basically anything that requires an equipment or someone to do it for you, tools, not equipment. You can use the tools along with your foundation on this Pranic journey, but remember it's a tool, not a foundation. And remember that the tool you can let go anytime and still remain on this path happy and healthy as long as you keep your foundation. I believe that's it for this video. I shared what I wanted to share. If you want to know more, I will probably make another video. Let me know in the comments below underneath this video if so. And I wish you a wonderful Pranic Path. I wish you all the best in your life. If what I said spoke to you or got you a few lights and ideas and inspirations, that's great. I'm very happy if so. If not, I'm still happy because I just wanted to share this video again for myself. Have a good day. Bye now. So what I want to say is that my physical body was ready and was on a pranic path. No. So what I want to say is that my physical. So in other words, so what I want to say is that you can't on this path, on a pranic living path, disharmonious and harmonious and or without experiences